in there, and thank you so
No,
much for
no,
putting the
it's all
time in. I know
right.
I've got my very strange headphones on, but I can hear you better. You look
So I
beautiful. I
just
always love seeing your face.
Oh my God, thank you very much, Anna. So I had a very long day right before this as well. I was in a meeting, and
Yeah.
though it's already 10 p.m. tonight, it's at the moment, yeah. So it was a long day. Thank you for your compliment because I felt a little tired, exhausted, but yeah, all prepped up to talk to you.
Yeah, and I won't keep you as like whenever you're ready. What time would you normally go to bed? What time's your normal
Oh,
bedtime?
don't ask me. It has just all changed. I don't know. It's because of the lockdown or something else, or because of my own like I'm also doing a PhD because of that. I have been sleeping very late. It's usually like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning. So that's
So this is your dinner time now, sort of,
sort
before
of,
you
yeah, yeah,
you've
sort of.
shifted your day, and
But
it
Anna,
is oh, sorry.
yeah, so you look so fresh this time because last time I saw you, I think
Yeah.
it was in a Teach for All video, and you were a little tired, exhausted, you were a little weak. I don't know what had happened to you, but I'm so happy to see you all fresh and so beautiful,
Yeah.
like you are. So so glad that you are
Thank
back to
you.
your own self.
I know, me too. It's been a long ride, and that's why I've had to spend a bit of time out of the world. I think since I fell ill in June, and then really, we don't really know what it was. It could have been lung COVID or other problems, or it
Mhm.
sounded like I had some anxiety, so some mental health issues, or all part of it as well. So
Mhm.
when I last saw everyone, I was just still off work, and I'd lost a bit of weight, and I wasn't really eating and things like that. And now I'm feeling so much better. I feel so much happier. I'm just ready to get back. But I'm just aware that when you go out of the world for a few months, you don't sort of
Mhm.
see anybody, and you lose touch, and you
Yeah.
lose sort of the momentum, don't you, that you were, I know we had regular calls and things like that. And so I just feel really sad that I worry that not being able to do much has sort of meant that I'm less
Mhm.
connected to people, and I've lost the opportunity to stay connected. So I hope that isn't the case. I'm hoping that's my own fears rather than reality. Um,
Mhm.
I just want to get back to this type of stuff.
Yeah,
Really,
to your
it's
old
lovely.
previous self, because you are that person who has helped us all remain connected even after the fellowship. You took the lead, and every time you were the one like sending us messages. Okay, so this is time, let's get connected. So that is how you had always been, and to see you like, yeah, certain, I think it's also important, but sometimes like even as I don't know, it's about being an introverted extrovert, or like we keep on saying that there are some people who like being connected with people all the time, and there are some people who just like to go inward and take some space.
Yeah,
But I guess like at one point or the other, it's very important that we give time for ourselves, and
yeah,
once you come back after that, you just feel so great about it, you feel rejuvenated. That is how I think you are like, the glow in your face is all because you took that space for yourself. I don't know what you
yeah.
did, but yeah, I feel so.
Yeah. I think we're very similar in that way. We talked about this before, the introvert extrovert, where you've
Yeah,
mentioned before how you're at times a bit quieter, and that's you need your space and time to
yeah.
yourself to rejuvenate. And I feel the same, especially when I haven't been well. I can't, some people like their family and friends coming around to support them, whereas to be able to get well, I just needed to go inward and be with myself to get better, and
Mm.
that's what I needed. So I always get the sense you're a bit of both, like me. You're a very connected person to people, but you also need your
Yeah,
time and
yeah.
space. And doing your PhD, I hope you're giving yourself that time as
Oh.
well. It's very
I
stressful.
wish, I wish. I guess that is one reason that I have started like sleeping a little late, because all day. I'm
Mhm.
so busy that I feel like I have to like give some time for myself, like just do things that are not just related to study or not related to something like where I have to use my brain or anything. I just want to calm down
Mhm.
and see some kind of series or like read anything apart from my textbooks and all. So that is what I do generally. And because of that, like because of that, of those kind of work, I just like feel calmer, and when I just go to bed I feel more calmer, so that I can give like come go back to my own busy self
Mhm.
tomorrow. So that is how I so far. But okay, we both of us moved into conversation so fast, but I just want you to give a brief introduction about yourself to the people who
Oh,
will be watching you. So tell us about Anna. Like I know you are very like I would like to call you a holistic educator, but because you are someone who looks after education management, you look after like you are more interested in connecting with people, you are very expressive, and you also talk about like you also think about emotions, mental health, and lots of things. So I
Mhm.
find you very holistic. But if you have to introduce yourself, so who are you as a person? So who is Anna?
Yeah, wow. Oh, that was lovely. Well, thank you. Yeah. From you're absolutely right. My name's Anna, and I'm based in Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. And I guess I suppose the best way to kind of sum me up in lots of ways, and you've hit the nail on the head, was that sort of holistic approach to life. Really, I've always been really connected to both people and places, and I started my career as an environmental scientist. So I studied the environment because I grew up in a town which was quite heavily polluted, and it was always got a very bad reputation about being quite dirty and smelly. And the children that grew up there, we used to get sort of teased at school for living in a place that's just not very nice to look at. It was heavy industry, but it was a really important place economically for the area. So I grew up wanting to I set up a Save the World club when I was 8 because I wanted to save the world from pollution, and I wanted everybody involved to do this. And as the years progressed, I think doing environmental science as a job, the one thing that was missing from me was that real people element. And although the environment's important because we live in there is a real strong connection, but I felt like I wasn't really helping people. And you said you're absolutely right. The emotional life is really important to me. And I think perhaps from my own personal experiences and working with young people, I've volunteered with young people for a long time. I think that's something that's really missing from society and from the connecting with young people and being able to talk about our emotional life and whether it's mental health, or I know they're separate, but there's sort of links in between. And for me, that is something that I really admire you, Buana, with your work in this area, because I'd really like to become a sort of an expert in it as well. I'd really like to sort of really focus my life on building up my knowledge and understanding about how we can help people through providing more information and more opportunities to talk about our emotional life. And I think I personally didn't experience much in school myself. We didn't, I connected through poetry and language. So I had a very good bond with a teacher when I was about 8 years old. And he introduced me to poetry. And I think that's something I'm writing. And they have been outlets that I've used to be able to kind of express my inner thoughts and feelings and to really sort of understand them, because I do have a mental health condition that's a bit complicated and it's a bit difficult to put into words. So that really helped. And I think, I landed on that by accident. But I think children today are not given that space to explore that. So yeah, I love working with you and talking to you about all these types of things. And I guess, yeah, personally, I do get overexcitable. I think I'm the introvert extrovert. I go from wanting to do a million and one things and be connected to everybody in the planet to then really needing space and time by myself. I love my own company. I like me as a person, and it's took me a long time to get to that point. I like spending time with me, and I think we should all be like this, really. But please tell me a little bit more. I'd love to hear from
Yeah,
you.
so
I don't want to dominate the conversation
I
today.
I also like myself a lot. No. So there was a phase like when it was so difficult for me to say that I like myself, like I love myself, like because we don't know exactly like what kind of person we are, maybe. So what I've come to realize is that the more you know about yourself, the more I know about myself, the more I know about what I like, what I dislike, the more I kind of start addressing my needs. It's I have a very healthy relationship with myself, and I have come to realize that the better the relationship I have with myself, the better the relationship that I have with my partner. That is something I have come to realize, because in the past, maybe I used to blame my ex partners for not being able to listen to my needs, or not being able to give me proper attention that I wanted. But slowly, with time and with a lot of reflection, now I've come to a phase that it's not about them, it's about me, whether I'm being able to give attention to myself or not. And the more I give attention to myself, the more I love myself, the more I like myself, I think I'm happy. And the more happy I am, I think that vibe kind of resonates with them, and they start like loving me more. That is something that I have come to realize, and that has helped me.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'm nodding along because I think I also, what resonated me with that is that I used to be really hard on myself because I didn't understand myself. I didn't really have a good understanding of why I felt differently or why I did the things that I did. And I was really hard on myself. I was trying to push myself into this, if I'm a round hole and society's a square box, I was trying to mold myself into that and wondering why it wasn't working. And I guess it's like, well, I'm never going to be that. So I have to find ways to accept me and be happy with me. And I think I am. I'm finding the past few years, the positives with what makes me me, and not trying to be too hard on myself in the past, because it's where sometimes relationships jar, isn't it? Because I never used to ask for what I needed because I just thought people were telepathic and should know that. But also I was too afraid to ask.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're too afraid as well, aren't you? I think it goes back to, I don't know if I deserved what I need, and that's a deeper question. And I now know that I've got to keep telling myself that I do deserve these things, and it's okay to ask for them. And you might not always get them, but it's okay to ask for them.
But at least you feel kind of relief that, okay, I knew that I needed that, I asked for it, and because of some circumstances I'm not being able to get that, so that I can also go for an alternative if that is helpful. So that is how that life goes on. So talking about that, so what I was thinking, I also like went back to a conversation that we did last time, where we talked about how it's not always like possible to be resilient. So and when you're talking about, most of the times what we do is like we are very hard on ourselves, like we keep on, we keep on blaming ourselves. No, we just say, okay, so you could have done that, you did not do it. Like we talk about emotions, we talk about mental health, and when we talk about mental health and emotions, we always ask people to be resilient, to take a pause and take a break, but it's not possible every time, even if you are so aware. So we're talking about that, and that this conversation is like going towards that direction as well. So Anna, I think like the past months, that when you were in your own self, when you were taking space from yourself, were there times when you felt that you were not being so resilient, and you hated that, or you accepted that? How was it like?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I've questioned resilience all year, and it's cropped up in the past. So I'm quite happy to say that I probably had a bit of a nervous breakdown this summer because I was ill, because there was sort of physical things going wrong and I couldn't cope mentally. And the last time that I went through a similar experience was in 2013. I had a very similar summer experience. The difference is, in 2013, I was very hard on myself, feeling that I'd failed at whatever it is I was failing at, and I wasn't able to pull myself get better and feel differently. And I think I was very, very hard on myself that it's not real and that it's all in your head essentially, and you should be able to, you know, everyone's stressed, everyone's got anxiety, so just pull your boots up and crack on with it. And this year I didn't do that. I accepted it is what it is, and I sort of knew that in order to get well, I'm going to have to sort of self-preserve and find the things I need and take time and space, and that's sort of what I did. But the resilience thing comes back to me because personally I'm okay with that. Personally at home I'm okay with taking that time and having times when I'm not very resilient and that I'm not coping. But professionally, I think I was really struggling with this year, and in education and all the work that we go to, resilience is valued as a skill, isn't it, or a thing. I'm not sure if it's a skill, it's a thing, isn't it, that we value, and we tell our teachers and our pupils and our staff to have this sort of resilient mentality. And I think that's historical in UK schools. Certainly they were expected to kind of crack on with it because the work needs to be done, you know, the show must go on, as they say. And that's what the jarring thing for me was the difficulty between your professional life and resilience compared to my personal life and resilience. So if I'm not resilient in my personal life, does that make me a poor worker and a poor employee and a, you know, sort of terrible for the company? And that's what was really difficult, because my organisation have been really supportive. They've been with me all the way and really helpful about understanding the needs and coming back to work. And I've not been penalised for that period of time, but effectively I was a member of staff they were paying and I wasn't doing any work. So, you know, from their point of view, that's very kind of them to support me, but I was, you know, making them a loss rather than a gain. And it's that thing, isn't it? If I'm not effectively working as a person and in this society, I'm making society a loss. I'm a drain. I'm not a person that's inputting into society and you know, the gains. So, and that doesn't sit well with our mental health, does it? It makes us feel like we're not a whole human being if we're not resilient and we can't cope and we can't go to work and we can't do all of these things. And that's just what sat with me. It was just really difficult, I think, that those things to kind of bring together, because I don't think I should feel less. I feel like every one of us has times when we will not be coping and we'll not be as resilient. So how do we address that, really? I don't know if you've thought anything on the subject.
Okay, so when you're telling this, a thought, like a perspective was going on in my mind, because you gave me a very completely different perspective. Like in UK, how it's considered as, like, even the workplace considers it as a skill, and it kind of like, because it's already taught that you need to cope up with situations like that, and you had a kind of pressure, like you were not being resilient, you were not being able to reach that bar of being a resilient person, a resilient employee. So that is how we were going through. But in the case of our country, so when we are talking about the term, like even the term resilience, the term emotional intelligence, the term mental health, it's just like coming up these days. We are just talking about it, we're discussing about it, and it was like giving me a perspective that we're so different yet similar. Because what here the context is that we keep on talking about it's important, but we don't like talk about how even like this skill can be at one time, or will in one day be a pressure that people will have to face. That okay, so our organization has been giving you different skills on building resilience, but as an employee you are not like taking that. As an employee you are not being able to learn that. So here what I would like to like tell is that, and this is my very personal opinion, so resilience is different for different people, don't you think so? Like the definition of resilience might be different to you, and definition of resilience might be different to me. So what is the definition of resilience? And when you were telling that it was you went through a lot of self-doubt for not being able to be a resilient person, especially in your professional front, what did you do to be that to reach that definition of to me the definition of resilience that you have had.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I think with all of these things, like we run workshops on, being more resilient in the classroom, but you're absolutely right. What does it actually mean? And there's so many different levels. It could be resilient enough to be well enough and present enough and in work on that particular day and productive enough. That's almost the sort of work aspect. If you can't get up to your job and do your job effectively because of external pressures or internal pressures, then your resilience is low. But you're absolutely right, that's very sort of just one-dimensional view on resilience, and that's almost from perhaps a work point of view. Or in my case, I was talking about, I guess, my own mental health and the fact that even if I was going through a physical disease, I wasn't coping with that, and therefore I was mentally breaking down because I didn't have the effective kind of coping strategies to be like, I'm not feeling very well, that must mean I'm dying or something terrible is happening to me. I can't cope with that, which actually was making me feel worse. So I was in quite a negative cycle, which I couldn't break. I was negative thoughts, negative behavior, background to negative cycle, and that was almost where your resilience starts to ebb away, because you're both physically, you start to feel tired, you don't want to get out of bed, you start to kind of physically go downhill, you don't want to eat, but then you are emotionally also are not sort of in the right place. So you're absolutely right, it's a kind of a minefield that we have talks on resilience, but yet no one can really define. I do think you can learn resilience. I do think there are things that we can learn, whether it is about understanding your own coping or strategies that we have. At Birmingham University, actually, they have a department over at Birmingham University that focuses on what's called the character education field, and some of their research about this is quite interesting because the resilience pops up in some of their papers, and so they've got some interesting strands on it where, similar to the teaching, like the emotional intelligence and learning can be learned and developed. It's along those lines, but they don't define resilience within that context either. I mean, how do you even unpick it really as a topic? It's a bit you might be further along than me with your reading in this area.
So I'm also trying to learn more about it. When I think of resilience, I always think of I think this two terms come together, like being. I keep on thinking about being vulnerable. Vulnerability. So when I think of resilience, this term itself pops in my head. If I am able, for me, if I'm able to acknowledge my own vulnerable self, I think that's the first thing for me to be resilient, because most of the time what happens is that we are not trying to accept, we just run away from our vulnerable self, unless just like you said that whenever we are having any kind of physical problem, first of all we have to recognize that, oh, okay, I'm having a fever, or I'm having a headache, I'm having a problem on my eye. That is something that I think that it all starts with a diagnosis. And once we know that the problem is actually because of your eye, the headache is because of the eye, not because of your nervous system or anything, then you go to an optician. So that is how it all starts, helping us from that one right diagnosis. So the same with happens with our own vulnerable self as well. So once we know that, okay, so I'm feeling vulnerable because of this reason, or I'm vulnerable to talking to people, I'm vulnerable because I had a very bad breakup in my early teens. That so when we realize that, I guess the coping strategies will then start, the I don't know, the resilience, if you can call it, how to be resilient. So the house of the resilience start coming from, once we know what our actually the problem is, what is the root of that particular concern is of. So once we know that, maybe that will help us be resilient. I don't know, that is how I have been dealing with, I've been thinking about resilience so far. But when I think of resilience, I always think of my vulnerable self. That is how I have been, and that is one reason actually, one reason of me starting to have this kind of information informal conversations, because
Mhm.
it was for me like, when I was thinking of my particularly my students and myself, like we all kept on talking about what our better self is, like what success is. Yes,
Mhm.
everything is very subjective, but what I also realized was that we kept on talking about success, we kept on talking about what like being resilient, how a resilient person is like. We talked about that, we talked about how emotional intelligent person is, but we never talked about how that process is like we become emotionally intelligent after feeling a lot of times not being emotionally intelligent, like we have made a lot of
Yeah.
mistakes, no, we are not emotionally mature all the time. So how do we deal with that? And next time when we go through same problem, then we become
Yeah.
emotionally intelligent. So that is how I started having these
Yeah.
conversations, and I kind of relate to like all of the people. So yeah, that's how
Yeah, the ironic thing as well is I think if I actually think about it, I may not have been resilient during that period of time, but I am resilient because I always seem to, whatever life throws at you, you get back up. And when you were chatting then, I was thinking what kind of did that for me is I lost a bit of hope in the summer. That's where I felt like I was sort of going on the trajectory down, that I didn't see future and I felt really hopeless. But it always reignites if you kind of go through the process. So it's almost like you go as low as you can go, and then the only place you can go is up. If you can get through that bit and just sort of take it day by day and get through, then hope starts to appear back in your life. You start to sort of see tomorrow and see the next day, and you do it like that. And that's where I've got my energy back again, because it's almost like I'm hopeful that I'm always hopeful of the world and what it can offer and the opportunities that are out there. And I know some children, even as a child, when we didn't have too much and you don't see behind your town, there was always that spark in me. And I think that was from my grandparents initiating this sort of idea that the world is an amazing place. You've just got to, you've got to go and find these sort of gems within it. And so, yeah, you're right. It's a very sort of personal journey, isn't it? I always think that I will come out of situations, even if I personally get myself into them, because of the way fear can sometimes be a huge factor in my life, and I'm quite a fearful person. So that is what I'm overcoming. The resilience I need is to overcome fear every day. So
yeah,
although I might not seem resilient, I'm facing these kind of demons, these scares, like COVID
exactly.
world was so scary. It's scary to all of us, but it was really, really that was when it all started, and I was scared of what would happen. But actually, when it does happen, I think I did get COVID. We cope much better with the actual situation than we do the fear of it. It's the uncertainty, isn't it, and the fear of
Mhm.
that. So whether we address that with resilience and we start to kind of address fears and uncertainty and how things are never as bad as they are, and that sense of hope, like where do you get your hope from, what do you pin your hopes and dreams on, getting through each day and having something to be grateful for. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I can say this now. You might have had a different answer from me 2 months ago when
2 months
it
ago,
might be
yeah.
interesting when I was in my lowest ebb.
Yeah.
I might be saying completely different things, like.
And yeah, just this having when you were telling about that, I also am thinking that when we are in our best self, I think we need to work on our resilience. I think that is the best thing, because now you are in your best self. You have like taken your time, you've taken some space, and now you feel that you are in a right frame of mind. And I think this is the time when you have to think about resilience, because when we are already weak, everything that we do, we tend to think that negative, as you said, that there was a slowly the hope that you have had in within yourself started to fade away, and that because of that you started feeling less hopeful. So what I feel is like, at this moment when we are mentally, emotionally in a very well state, that is the time when you have to slowly start building the a block of hope or resilience. For example, what we can simply do is like, okay, so at this point of time, what are the things that I like about myself? What are my strengths? So what are the emotions that I am very fearful of, or what are the emotions that makes me feel vulnerable, or what are the things that I run away from? So when I start like having have think about it now, maybe because of my right frame of mind, what I will do is like I will think of the right coping mechanism that will help me in the future. So when the problem arises, then I can use those strategies, because the strategies that I think of at that moment of time might not be helpful. So how was it different for you? Like, did you do the same, or did you like come up with a different strategy when you were when you were not so resilient 2 months back? How was it for you? And also one question, like when we are in that on a very vulnerable state, and when we're not feeling that resilient, the chances are that we blame upon ourselves, and we need someone to have a faith on us. Like, did you have that someone who trusted you and who was like there helping you to be resilient, or did you do it
Yeah.
yourself, because you had got off from lots of things at that point of time? So how was it like?
Yeah, I'll answer that sort of second part while it was fresh in my mind. But yeah, absolutely. I think having that strong network is so important. And, years ago, I hid those moments, because you hit the nail on the head about being vulnerable is a real difficult place to be. And you don't want to show people necessarily your vulnerable side. I've Since I've been much more open about these kind of vulnerabilities, people have been really quite supportive, and that's been absolutely amazing to see that people actually connect with you on a better level. Because we did remember last year we shared our vulnerable selves and we connected really, really closely with people, and I think that's important. I think it brings out the fears in other people, because my partner did an amazing job of looking after me this summer, but when I first got ill, I think that brought out some fears in him, because he was like, how can I cope by looking after you? You're not well, and with an unknown mystery disease that we don't really know, and it could be mental health, and that's sort of a strange one to have to deal with. And I think he kind of found that difficult. So actually you're sort of going through your bit, but alongside other people going through theirs, and they're sort of interacting with you. So he wasn't able to be very helpful at the start, which kind of didn't help me, but then we sort of found a way to come together so we could help each other. And I had my mum, who also suffers with anxiety. She was a great person, because she just someone to say, I understand, maybe I don't know what you're going through, but I'm compassionate and I'm listening and I understand, and it's okay. I understand that you're fearful today and that you don't want to leave the house because you're afraid, and I'm just here for you. I'm not trying to fix you or solve anything. I'm just here. And that was so powerful, I think, to me. And we don't share that, do we? I think people are. I spoke to a lady the other day who'd gone through a really difficult time this year as well, and she was afraid of sharing those experiences for fear of, I guess, people judging, or the reaction of people, or you don't know what you're going to get. And I think it takes a bravery in itself to just say, hey, I'm not okay, and this is what's happening with me. And I've learned that over the years, that it's years ago I hid a lot, and that actually made my situation 10 times worse, because friends weren't there for me. Because how can your friends be there for you if they don't know you need them? So you have to tell them, don't you? You have to say, I'm not okay, I need you. But the introvert within me doesn't like attention, so I struggle with that, because I don't want attention.
Yes, I
I
can
just want
absolutely
understanding.
I can absolutely relate to that. Yeah. And just to give a brief background to whoever are watching this, Anna and I met last year in through one of the fellowship that was Living with Lived Experience Fellowship, and she was taking the reference of the same fellowship. And that fellowship was all about like being our own self. It was about reflecting about our own life, or thinking about or reflecting about what things made us vulnerable, and also reflecting on how our identity has been shaped by our culture context, and also about like how has our upbringing like shaped, even the context of our own country has just shaped us differently. So that was the part of what we had actually discussed in that fellowship. And yeah, to agree with you, so when we expressed that, even we had seen the impact, positive impact of that in our fellowship duration as well. So we felt more connected because we knew, I talked about myself, about my own vulnerable self, because being a very introvert person, I don't share that with many people, apart from very few of my friends. And even all of my friends don't know about it. But that fellowship was something where we were there, like 25 people, doing different activities, like talking about ourselves, talking about the country, how the context of our country has shaped us. And that has helped us connected. And even today, like after a year, we feel connected. So that is the power of like expressing our vulnerable self, because we are, yeah, because we feel doubtful, we feel doubtful because of the fear that people would judge us. But what we don't realize is that the other person has also gone through the same kind of experience, not the same but similar kind of experiences. And that has actually helped us bind together. And I feel, so every time I talk to you, I feel that connection. So yeah.
I know. I remember the ice cream we shared last year. And
Yes.
one thing that you just said that really stuck with me is you're bringing your whole self all the time and being true to yourself, and being that, it's sort of having integrity when it comes to being
Yeah.
able to be your true self. And I'm part of a working group in my job where we've got neurodiversity. We've just started a support group for members of staff, which does cover mental health, but it covers all sorts of neurodiverse things like ADHD or dyslexia or autism, all of these types of things. And one of the things we always discuss in these groups is how do we allow ourselves to bring our full self to work and sometimes to our personal lives, because sometimes we protect others from that as well, but also we wanted to remain professional in work, and I don't want to overstep boundaries. So I don't like oversharing too much either. I think certain things you want to keep sort of personal, don't you? If it's you don't want to tell the world about your conditions and all these things that you have. So it's kind of a balance between how do I be vulnerable and share, but enough so it protects my personal privacy with things that I don't want to share, and also how can I be my true self and be valued for perhaps the quirks and the things that those things come with, because I'm a difficult person sometimes to manage, and I don't mean that because I try not to be, but I do appreciate anyone who's working with me. My brain works in a different way, and I have a different way of thinking about things. I'm not a very logical person. So if you're a logical person, working with me is just tremendously difficult because you're from a place of logic and I'm not. I'm more creative. And I've sometimes in the past had to hide that, because that's not the world's not set up for that, is it really? You're set up more towards the logical, organized and structured ways of working, not the other way. So, but the other way comes with its values. So I've started to appreciate over the few years, and Clifton strengths, there's that exercise you do. I was like, oh, I'm a strategic person. I'm also very creative, and I'm a big picture thinker, and I'm inclusive. I love to make people feel included. So those are still values and skills that I have that are still the world needs, but it's just difficult to put them into sometimes settings when I frustrate people because I don't always work in the kind of standard logical way. But it's not standard. I know we all work differently, but that sort of measured approach, and it's how we sort of kind of embrace those things and celebrate them, because it's what makes us all unique individuals, isn't it? We all bring our quirks and our sort of personalities to work. That's why I think you're a wonderful person. I absolutely was very drawn to you, and I think it's because you are so easy to sort of connect with as well. I think we did have shared experiences, even though we are on opposite sides of the world. We have some, but I've also felt like I've learned a lot from where the differences lie, and you're just such a warm person that it gravitate to you often.
Yeah, so that are my good sides. I am also a very complicated person. I actually myself, I had struggled a lot to understand myself. I have to accept that, because for a very, very long time, I was very confused. I did not know what I wanted to do in my life. I did not know where I wanted to go. I don't know who I wanted to be with, because everything was so complicated. No, so also being some when you like you enjoy this kind of conversations, and there are times when you don't like to like talk to anyone. So I'm having conversations right now with multiple people at this moment, but I am sure that there will be a time when I will shun myself up. I will not be anywhere, like I would not want to talk to anyone. I know that I'm that kind of person, because I've talked to a lot of people now, and I have to like pull my energy back and give some time for, I know that. And to be able to understand that self myself is a very complicated task, no? So I used to question myself. So am I like, is it right that, am I being fearful, like am I being fair with myself? Like, because at one point I like talking to people, and at one point I don't like talking to people. So what do I really want? That I struggled a lot with that kind of question. And that complicated self made me more complicated, like in front of other people. They did not know whether to approach me or whether to like not approach me. I was some people thought I was a very strict person, some people thought I was a very unapproachable person, some people thought like with whom I had a very nice conversation, because it I thought like it was my mood, but it was not, it was just a phase. No, I
Do you feel like it's push and pull? Like, I love having people's company, but sometimes when it gets, I suppose, a bit overwhelming, you take a step back, but you don't want people to feel like you're a fair weather friend, I suppose, that, you know, that, oh, she talks to me now and again, and then I don't hear from her for months. And but I suppose if you're honest and open with, I try just to be really like, I'm hibernating for a while, and I'm thinking of you and I care about you. I'm always here for you, but I'm just taking some time away from you and everybody.
Exactly.
It's like that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And this clarity has made my life so much easier now. I just like say to people that, okay, it's not because of you, or you did anything wrong. It's just because I want some space for myself, and for like time being, I'm doing this for myself, and I'll get back to you. So that is what it has made a lot. It started to make a lot of sense now, and so many.
Can I ask, Anna, how did you come to that? Did that come over time, or did you have a realization that I need to do this?
So actually, I started writing. Writing helped me a lot. Actually, my use of Instagram, that helped me a lot. So what happened was, like, I had a lot of like mental troubles, dilemmas, I have to say. It was around, I guess, in 2018, right before the fellowship. For that one year, I had to go through a lot of health issues. I did not know exactly what had happened to me, but it was more sort of emotional. I did not know, like, it was kind of difficult for me to actually figure out what I liked and what I disliked. Before that, I was very sorted. I thought that I was sorted. Like, I was sorted in terms of my aim, what I wanted as a profession, who I wanted in my life. And it was like I was going through that phase of my life. But in 2018, like, suddenly I started feeling low. Whatever I did, like, I stopped making sense, no? And it was very difficult for me. During that point of time, because I was so reserved, I did not know whom to share that with as well. And also, I trusted very few people, and with whom I used to share, it was very difficult for that person to actually come and understand me as well, because I was not being able to understand. So for me, it was a thought that came in my head, that okay, so let me try something new, because I'm not liking anything. Let me force myself to at least find at least one meaningful thing that I did that particular day. So I promised myself that, okay, so every day I will be posting one Instagram post and that would be a picture of the best moment of that day. So what I started, that is something that I started doing, and I really love that. I used to look forward to like clicking the picture, and I thought that okay, this is the best moment, and then after sometimes something else would happen. Oh, this is the best moment. I started realizing that happened to me. And at night, I used to choose one of the pictures and then post it. And slowly, I thought, okay, let me not just post the best moment, but something that's memorable. That should be treasured. So rather than like thinking about the best moment, I started thinking, shifting my attention towards the treasurable moments. And then I realized, okay, this is something that I liked. This is something that I want to go back, scroll back, and look at again after a few years. So that is how it kind of made sense. I did that for one whole year, actually 1.5 years. Every day I used to post it, and every day I used to like write my feelings, and that helped me find clarity. Like it was just few words, few lines. It was just 4 line poems, and then I used to like get some kind of clarity. And that doing it continuously for 1.5 years, it made me like, no, okay, so this is the kind of person I am. Even if I'm not talking, I want to express. And for me, expression could be anything. It could be a picture, it could be some words, and I don't need any people to express. But when I like have to have, but genuinely have to have conversation, I have to talk to someone. So that is how I gained my clarity. And it took me like 1.5 years and more than that. And I would say like 2 years exactly. And when I met you, it was that point of time when I slowly started like get, I don't know if I can call that enlightenment or anything, but
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
phase when I was like, I, I was trying to know myself a little better. And after that, so that was one phase, and I started working on my health as well. So I realized that it was like I was having some issues with my hormones, and that because of that I was feeling low. I basically, I'm not that very kind of depressed person, but it was because of the fluctuation of my hormones. And I started working on my health as well. So once I became clear in one thing, that led to the other and the other and the other. So it just had some ripple effects, I would say. So that is how it happens.
Oh, it's brilliant to hear this. And did you have support along the way as well? You had,
Oh
you had
yeah.
you could talk to people about
Yeah.
your sort of journey, open up a bit.
Exactly. So for 1 year, I did not tell this to anyone. I used to do it for myself, but then slowly I started like realizing, okay, so it's not that I am not that kind of reserved person. I can have trust someone. So that is the reason. And also, and okay, so that is also one reason that I felt comfortable getting married. Before that, I was kind of unsure whether I am the right person to be spending life with some other person. So I was in that thought process as well. So once I was clear, okay, so it's not about I hated talking to people or something. It's just that I need some space, and I'm expressive, and when I want conversations to have, and I'm a very nice person, by the way. But sometimes I might be complicated, and if I tell that, and if the person understands me, it's all right to get married. That is how I came to the conclusion that it's all
You
right
did
to get.
share that quite early last year.
Yeah.
You said it very, very early on. This is me. And that was really refreshing, actually, because it's like, I'm not standoffish. I'm just quiet. So that's
Yeah.
okay. And that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
People are like,
And yeah.
oh, okay.
and, and then I found my husband who understood that self, that myself, which was both reserved and also expressive. So yeah, that is how I shared this with him, and he was very open about it, and also he is a similar kind of person. And yeah, that is how we thought of getting married. And in that process, in my, I would say, healing process, when even if my health was not that good, we decided to get married. And then slowly we started working on both of ourselves. And now, yeah, so we both are in a very better place, I would say, in the
Oh,
journey.
you're great to speak to, because I am also having, I think we're very similar in that way, as well as that outlook of life and future and married life. And we're due to do the deed of marriage in a few weeks' time. And I think if I think about us on a daily basis, so as I was saying to my partner this, I love every day with you, and every day I wake up and we have a day together. I love that, and there is nothing I would change. When I start to think about the future and this lifelong commitment and these things that come with
Yeah.
this sort of symbolism of marriage, that's what gives me fear, because it's
Yeah.
the unknown and the uncertainties and what that means, and can I be someone who can support you for life, and then I can't support myself, and all
Yeah.
these things, and it's too much. And I've been quite fearful of that time, even though I know it won't necessarily change our life together. But I'm like you, I have been reluctant, but just because I am a bit scared.
Yeah, yeah. So most of the time, like we don't know the exact reason, and that's why I have now started telling people that if we go back to our roots and try to figure out what's actually scaring you, not marriage, like not wanting to get married, or is that might be just the outcome, but the reason might be deeper than that. It might be a fear. It might be like anxiety or something related to some unclear thoughts you had it yourself. And it's very important that, and it will take a while to actually untangle it. No, it's not that easy. It's very difficult, and sometimes, as by nature, by human nature, we want things very fast, and in this very fast paced world, we want things to go very fast, and it doesn't happen in real life, no.
Yeah. Well, I like being the snail. You know, the hare, the story of the hare and the snail. I like
Yeah.
being the snail. Why do I have to be a hare? I take time, and I was something happened the other day, and I was rushed into making a decision, and I got flustered and made the decision. And afterwards, I was like, I didn't make the right decision, but it's because I didn't have time to process and to think about it. And that's how my brain works. I absorb information and I think about it, and then I decide afterwards. But in this world we live in, people want the answer now, don't they? And they want to do things now. And maybe it's that instant, opportunity of, you could contact anyone at any time. I used to like the days when you just had a telephone in your house, and that was
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah, yeah.
non-contactable the rest of the time.
Exactly. So yeah.
Oh,
So look, it's already been an hour that we have been
I
talking. It
know.
was so refreshing.
Well, the other thing, I've been in touch with Arnob about, because I was saying I would really like to I know we said we put some time in with
Mhm.
everybody in October, and I hadn't sort of got back into the world then. And then the conference was brilliant. Sorry, this is off piece. You can
No, it's
hopefully
all right. It's
edit
all
these
right.
last
Yeah.
bits
Mhm.
off. But I was saying to, because Arnob's been doing work with this current fellowship, and I said, wouldn't it be lovely if we could be introduced to them and see how they've got on this year, and have a platform for whoever is still engaged to come together.
Mm.
So Arnob is doing it from the current cohort, and I said I will try and, between us, we will organise some sort of further, at least put some calls in, and see if people want to connect in the coming months. Not all the time, maybe just a couple of times a
Yeah.
year, and just
Yeah.
no more than 4
Yeah.
times a year, to see if people want
No,
to
it's
join forces.
I would really love that, because
Yeah.
as I said, like it's all about making connections and having that close bond with whom, like with the similar, I would say similar people who think similarly, because it's very difficult to find people who are in the same page because of the life situations that we have had. And I think with this fellowship is one thing that has helped us all feel connected and come in, like be in one page when it comes to be our own self. So
Yeah.
that has really helped, and I would really love to be in touch. And Arnav is one person that
Yeah,
I'm really
I
really
know.
fond
He's
of.
brilliant, because I'm
Yeah.
also like, I didn't want to take over it, and it's always lovely to put in time with people. I know he was saying about making it a bit more diplomatic with the next group. They've got kind of a management group that come together, because I said I always felt a bit like I didn't want to be the person that was sort of, dictating how things work. And I think our lived experience fellowship was always about being inclusive, and the
Yeah.
diverseness within that. And I just thought, in lots of ways, I'm a majority person, sort of like white British of this sort of, and I just felt like that kind of, I didn't want to be the domineering voice, but because of any of those reasons, even though I guess my mental health is that kind of reason I was part of it. But do you know what I mean? I just felt like I wasn't that wanted to be the too stronger voice in the group, really. But we
Exactly.
all value each other's voices, and I think that's what's been the beauty of it. So
Yeah,
We
we
shall
should. We
come
should.
together again. We will.
Yeah,
Look
we
what
should
I've
come
got
together
as
again
well.
and talk about
Look
some.
what I've been reading and catching up on your
Oh,
reports. So I
wow.
will respond on this one. Thank
Sure,
you.
sure, sure. Please do that. You are that one person who really actually follows our work and comes up with like amazing, amazing feedback. Yeah, so I'm
Yes,
so grateful. I'm so grateful. So grateful. I don't know like how to
it's
express
great.
that. But yeah, I really appreciate this bond that we have. That one, no, we just spent 3 days, and that too on on doing different trainings and all, and we had very few time for ourselves to just roam around and talk about our own lives. But then this bond that we have is very, very amazing for me, and I'm so glad that you just took some time, and then as you are back and I can find your old self back again. So
Yeah.
it gives me a lot of pleasure. Yeah, to wrap this conversation up, I just
Yes,
have
we'll
one
go.
question for you. So, uh, we talked about resilience. We talked about not having that pressure to be resilient all the time. And like any final words or thoughts to those people who are struggling to not like to have that resilience in them, or who are like
Yeah.
struggling because they think that they are not as resilient as that the situation demands them to be. So any final words?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. We always say it's okay to not be okay, and whatever resilience means for you in that kind of moment, and to sort of get that support. But I think during those periods when we don't feel resilient, I think there are lots of learning opportunities, because not only did this past 5 months of me feeling very unresilient to what was happening in the world and with myself, it gave me an opportunity to do a bit of deeper digging and understanding me a little bit more. And I took time out because I needed that time for myself. So I think even in those kind of dark moments, there are opportunities and learning that comes from that. So I would sort of say, just keep talking to people. It's okay to not be okay and have those kind of moments. The world isn't really always set up for if you're not feeling resilient, but that's okay. We're all individuals, and I just think, yeah, just keep going. It's about that hope and the fact that this will pass. Whatever you're going through will pass, and I know I will face this period again. It will come to me, so I'm going to be prepared for it as best as possible next time.
So nice of you, Anna, and I'm so loving this conversation. I've already been
Oh,
so late at night, and
I
I know you
know.
also might have some work. But okay, thank you very much for giving this separating this time for us to have this wonderful conversation. I will definitely catch up again, and
Yeah,
yeah, we'll definitely have that conversation with our other fellows as well,
yeah.
where we both the teams will come together and share. That is one idea that I really, and that is what I love about you. You keep on thinking about how to include people, other people, and
Yeah.
bring them on the same page. Yeah, I love that part of you. And yeah, to all the people who are watching, thank you very much for watching. And today, I don't know if I have to call it tonight or today. Yeah, both Anna and I are signing off. And yeah, we will be back with more conversations. Maybe we might need some time after this for our own self, but we'll be back again with the conversation. Thank you very much. See you. And bye,
Thank you so
Anna.
much.
Bye bye. Bye
Bye.
bye. See
Bye
you.
bye.